Jonah Heim unleashes his pettiness and a massive home run to give the Rangers the win and the series win. Plus, we're looking at where does Ezequiel Duran fit on the Rangers long term. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Thursday, June 22nd, and your Rangers are 46-28, alone atop the AL West with a 5.5 game lead over the Angels, which is their biggest lead of the season. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Before we get into the pettiness of Jonah Heim, the greatness of Jonah Heim and Ezequiel Duran, today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for the parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Now, Jonah Heim is a petty king, and I respect him so incredibly much for this. My former co-host, Morgan Price, is very, very big proponent of pettiness, and she has deemed Jonah Heim the petty king of the Texas Rangers, and who am I to deny her accurate assessment of Jonah Heim's pettiness? Jonah Heim was the center of the controversy in Tuesday night's a questionable loss with some very questionable replay review decisions. In case you missed that game or just haven't been online the last couple of days, I don't mind filling you in. Jonah Heim was charged. It sounds like it was a crime. It felt like a crime with how the replay review came down, but the go-ahead run was tagged out at the plate. That was Elvis Andrus, because Jonah Heim made an incredible tag and Travis Jankowski made an incredible throw, but the White Sox challenged that play, and the replay office deemed that Jonah Heim was in an illegal setup because he had his foot on home plate before the throw was happening. He was on the other side of home plate. This was the go-ahead run in a 1-run loss for the Rangers. So, yeah, pretty egregious call. And Bruce Bochy called it one of the worst calls he's ever seen, said it was embarrassing, which I frankly tend to agree. And then apparently the same thing happened. A very similar thing happened in the Padres-Giants game last night, where Gary Sanchez was called for having an illegal setup blocking the plate in a crucial moment in a series that the Padres got swept by the Giants, who were on a 10-game winning streak. Giants might actually be pretty good this year, but Jonah Heim was still feeling a little petty in this one. He uncorked a 3-run bomb, and the Rangers were up 3-1 with runners at the corners. Josh Young had just come up with 1 out, and he struck out like he did in every plate appearance this game. Just a rough day for the young rookie. He was moved back down to the number 5 hole yesterday, I believe it was, and he went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, his first ever golden sombrero in the big leagues. Been a little bit of a rough way for him the last couple of games. After that massive game in his first game, hitting third, he has gone 0 for 9 with 7 strikeouts. But one of those strikeouts, I do not chalk that up to Jonah Heim. That was a rough call. The guy has been getting really squeezed on the zone, it feels like, as of late, especially in this key situation. The count was 1-2, and it was a fastball inside, a couple inches, probably 3 inches off the plate, and Josh Young did whoop, just bounced back out of the way and kind of did the tuck your stomach in kind of thing when a pitch is in tight and you're trying to sell that it's in tight, because it was clearly not on the plate, and it was not a call that was being had all day, but it was enough to ring him up for a strikeout. Up comes Jonah Heim with 2 outs, runners on the corners. Rangers were up 3-1 at this point, so the game was still very much in the balance. I mean, the White Sox had taken out their starter because the Rangers did a really good job of making Michael Kopech work. He only went 4 innings in this one, 4 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, 3 walks, and a home run. That one was by Ezequiel Duran, but he threw 86 pitches in this one. The Rangers bounced him after 4 innings and got to work against the White Sox pen that was pretty overloaded. They had a bullpen game on Monday. They had played a lot of games in a row, and the Rangers got pretty deep into the pen on Tuesday as well. But the Rangers were able to take advantage. Jonah Heim gets a pitch he can handle, a really good at bat, a fastball in on his hands, and he turns on it and blasts it into the right field seats. And as he's rounding first base, he does the little hands on your ears symbol that means challenge. That's what the White Sox did in the 8th inning of the game before. And Jonah Heim says, you can't challenge this. Upon further review, I have placed this ball in the seats for a 3-run home run. I have interfered with the ball coming to home plate because I have hit a freaking dinger. His 10th of the season, a massive shot. It give the Rangers a 5-run lead at that point. It would end up being the difference in the ball game as the Rangers won 6-3. Just a massive shot for Jonah Heim on one of the last days for All-Star voting. Talked about it a lot on yesterday's show, how Jonah Heim was being absolutely just robbed in the All-Star voting. He's been the best catcher in baseball, or in the American League, I should say. Sean Murphy's having a really great year in Atlanta, but Jonah Heim is not competing with Sean Murphy or Will Smith for All-Star votes. He's competing with Adley Rutschman and Salvador Perez. He has a 2.6 baseball reference WAR, and yesterday it was 2.4, so 0.2 WAR improvement today already because of that home run. 10 home runs now tie him with Adley Rutschman for the second most among American League catchers. He has been incredibly valuable offensively, defensively, petty-wise, star-wise. This guy deserves to be in the All-Star game. He is a switch-hitting catcher with power, and I'd like to see him get that walk rate back up. He had a really elite walk rate early on this year, and it feels like he's been expanding the zone just a little bit. His walk rate's down to 6.8%, which is still fine, but a little bit below league average. But he is still crushing the baseball. He is still the best defensive catcher in all of baseball, especially in the American League, and he deserves to be in the freaking All-Star game. I know Salvador Perez, you see, 14 home runs. There we go. We put that guy in the All-Star game. But no, Jonah Heim deserves to be in the All-Star game. He has the highest batting average. He has the most doubles. He has the most WAR, the most defensive value, the most hits, the most RBI. Like, he just is doing freaking everything. And for that home run celebration alone, I feel like you've got to give this guy an All-Star bid. And the reason I'm bringing this up, this is the last day, and voting might already have been closed at this point. But if Jonah Heim doesn't make the top 2 spots, then he doesn't advance in the All-Star voting for a chance to be the starter, which would be a darn shame, because Jonah Heim has been absolutely incredible this season, and he deserves all the love in the world. And I think it would be an absolute travesty if he does not advance in this one. But there's some other guys who had some pretty good days in this one, including Ezequiel Duran. I'll get more into him later on in the show and where he might end up long-term in terms of a position. Not if he's going to go somewhere else and be traded, because there's no way the Rangers are trading him with what he's doing this year. But I think I've got some interesting thoughts about what Ezequiel Duran should be playing defensively. But I do want to give a shout out to Nathaniel Lowe. A really good game for him in this one. He went 1 for 2 with an RBI, a run scored, and 3 walks. His walk was actually what set up that big 3-run bomb by Jonah Heim in the 5th inning. And he drove in the Rangers' first run, tied it up on a ball hit the opposite field, because that's what Nathaniel Lowe does. He hits the ball to the opposite field. His 19th double of the season off of Michael Kopech. He has been very valuable to the Rangers, and I talked a little bit about maybe the Rangers thinking about putting him lower in the lineup, and, well, Josh Young having one bad game and kind of dropping down to the 5th hole. I don't know. I think that switching around Lowe and Young in the 3 and 5 holes makes sense depending on the handedness of the pitcher, but you got to let them know, I think, ahead of time so they can be aware of what to expect. I think that's a big part of lineup continuity. Why that's so important is just guys knowing what they're going to do, where they're going to be, the positions they're going to be in heading into different games. Coming up, we're going to look at Martin Perez's fantastic start and about Ezequiel Duran, and maybe the Rangers going with a 6-man rotation to start the series up in New York. But first, let's word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Birddogs are the most comfortable pants and shorts you will ever get yourselves a pair of. Birddogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddogs shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. They fit better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Birddogs fixed the issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Birddogs uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. It has been so freaking hot in Texas, and I love to go out for walks every single day and try and get out there, and I like wearing my Birddogs because even if the top half of me is just sweating like a monster, these Birddogs keep me feeling nice and cool and looking really freaking good. They are so comfortable. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonmlb for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. Shout out to the Everydays for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Friday's show, I'll talk about this week in the minors and a pretty nice week for Evan Carter. The Rangers take on the Yankees this weekend. You can catch every pitch for the hometown broadcast of Sirius on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, Martin Perez, a solid start for him in this one. 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, just 2 strikeouts, and 4 hits allowed in this one. A really, really solid performance from him, and him going 7 innings was huge for the Rangers. The Rangers are in the midst of a stretch of 30 games in 31 days heading into the All-Star break. They're finally on their first and only off day during this stretch that is just brutal. It has been brutal, and I think that's part of why we've seen a little bit of struggles from Marcus Semien as of late. We saw a couple of days worth of struggles, and really a couple weeks worth of struggles for Josh Young. But Martin Perez coming up with 7 innings was absolutely huge for this team. The bullpen has been very highly taxed the last couple of times through the order, and it's been a little frustrating. Andrew Heaney thankfully was able to go 5 2/3 innings on Monday, got 6 innings out of Nathan Eovaldi on Tuesday in the loss. Not his best start, but he was still able to go deep into this game. And Martin Perez being able to go 7, so the Rangers only had to use 2 relievers, Josh Sborz for an inning and a third, and Will Smith for just 2 outs in this one. That is a big-time move for the Rangers, who are in a long stretch. It's a long season. You have certain stretches, but this one was always circled on the calendar of this many games and this many days as something that's going to be pretty brutal. I mean, this is some tough series that the Rangers. It started with that series in Tampa Bay, and then you had 4 games against the Angels, who were incredibly hot. Then you had 3 games against the Blue Jays, who are a pretty good team, and the White Sox are. No, they have a lot of talent. They're in a rough way, but still. Then you come out of this stretch. After this off day, you got 3 games in New York. Then you got 4 games against the Tigers, and then you got a 4-game series with the Astros at home, which is going to be absolutely massive. And after that, you travel to the East Coast to face the Red Sox for 3 games, and then the Nationals for 3 games, and then. Thank the good Lord for the All-Star break. The Rangers need some help. I mean, they have an off day, and I think this starting pitching staff, one of the things that I've talked about with them is them needing to be taken care of and not overworked. And so far, the Rangers have been lucky to miss out on any major injuries on anyone besides Jacob deGrom of the opening day 5. That has been very fortunate. I know they did have injuries to Jake Odorizzi, and they didn't see him at all this season, which would have been nice to see him a little bit this season. But Dane Dunning has made that pretty much irrelevant. And I'm not worried about Dane Dunning's health. I'm not worried about Martin Perez's health. But even then, you still need to give these guys a couple of days. And one guy who is still in the Rangers' pen has not pitched since, I believe, that was either Monday or Tuesday against the Angels when Owen White made his Major League debut and Cody Bradford came in on short rest. That's right, Cody Bradford, who has not pitched at all as a long reliever, which makes me think that the Rangers, at least for now, are going to go with a 6-man rotation. A huge hat tip to the young lefty for those 4 and a third innings, I think, that he pitched in on short rest after going 8 innings on Friday. I think it was Tuesday that he came in, so it was still short rest, which is something you don't ever see in the big leagues. You really don't see from minor leaguers, and he really saved that Rangers team. And I think on either Friday or Saturday or sometime in this series, probably Friday, we're going to see Cody Bradford, who has been really solid. Has been really, really solid. And if Aaron Judge, who has been out for a little while with a big toe, a great toe injury, and the Yankees offense has been absolutely listless without him. If Cody Bradford wants to go into the Bronx, then that would be a pretty good time to go face this Yankees offense that has been scuffling mightily. But I think that's the move, and keeping Cody Bradford on the roster makes me think that there's no way they just kept him around to just kind of sit around and not have an extra bullpen arm that they probably could have used. I think it means that Cody Bradford is going to stick in this rotation at least for one time through, maybe 2. Maybe he'll get 2 starts. Maybe he'll go against the Yankees, and then on regular rest, I think that would be against the Tigers in that series finale. I would feel better about that and then having him face off against the Astros, because I like Cody Bradford. I think he's solid, and he did a really good job against a very tough lineup in Baltimore, which is a better lineup than the Astros lineup, just so we're all aware. But I don't know. I just have a little nervy feeling about him facing off against the Astros in a very tough series. But still, I really want to applaud Martin Perez, who I feel very confident in saying that he is good enough to be a number 3 in your rotation. He's good enough to be, a decent. If he's your third best pitcher, then your pitching rotation is in a pretty good way. I mean, maybe it's Dane Dunning, maybe it's him, maybe Martinez your number 4. But heading into the season, I thought Martin Perez was going to be the number 3 in this rotation. I thought it was going to go Jacob deGrom, then Nathan Eovaldi, and then Martin Perez coming off that fantastic All-Star season. We all kind of saw a little bit of regression coming back down to earth from him, but I still think that he is a completely different pitcher than the guy that we saw his first time through in Texas. He is a guy who is confident. He knows his stuff. He trusts his stuff. He knows how to get big league hitters out, and he has the confidence to do so, even when things start to go off the rails. I think the success that he has had working around base runners the last couple of years shows that he is completely different mentally, and that's why I trust him in big situations and starting every 5th day, and maybe even taking the hill game 3 of a playoff series. I mean, right now, I think he's who I would go with game 3 as a game 3 starter, because I really trust him. In the month of June, he has been much, much better, even including that blow-up start against Tampa Bay Rays, who absolutely demolished every single lefty. Again, there was no shame. There was never any shame in him getting lit up by one of the, if not the best offenses in all of baseball, with a lineup of entirely right-handed hitting guys. Well, a couple switch hitters who were hitting like right-handers. But in the month of June, he has got a 4.24 ERA, including that 3 1/3 innings of 7-run ball against the Rays. His last 2 starts out, he has combined for 13 innings, just 4 earned runs, just 5 strikeouts, and just 4 walks. He has been consistent. And I mean, going back to that start in the middle of May in Colorado, he had 7 innings there. He had 7 innings against Pittsburgh as well. He did have that rough start against Detroit, but for the most part, he's been fairly consistent. I mean, I trust Martin Perez, and I trust him to give this rotation some length and not have to go into the bullpen too much, because we've seen what happens to a bullpen that gets overworked. If they are doing well and the Rangers starters are not doing well, then they have to pitch more innings, they get more tired, and then they stop being nearly as effective. But the Rangers bullpen has been very effective this year. I mean, Will Smith now has 13 saves on the season. He's only had to pitch 28 2/3 innings. Josh Sborz has pitched 30 innings. Burke under 30 innings at 28.2. Leclerc at 23.2. I mean, there's not a whole lot of extra work being done by these guys in the bullpen, thankfully. So the Rangers have their formula of, 8th inning is going to be Grant Anderson or Josh Sborz. In the 9th inning, it's going to be Will Smith, and Brock Burke or Joe Barlow is going to come in the 7th inning, and maybe give you, I trust Burke to give you multiple innings more often than I would trust Joe Barlow, but still, it seems like the formula has been established. The Rangers are sticking to it, and it has been effective. And if the Rangers don't have to go too many innings, if their starters can go consistently 6 7 innings. I mean, every seven inning outing is a real boost to this pen. I'm especially doing it before an off day so that everybody gets a day off, and most of you relievers get 2 days off. That is a huge boost to this team, and I really think that Martin Perez deserves to be applauded for. But Ezequiel Duran had a home run in this one, his 9th of the season. Coming up, we're going to look at where he needs to play long-term and what his long-term outlook is and why he is so freaking valuable to the Texas Rangers. But first, this word from our sponsors. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day on Monday. I'll be breaking down this weekend series in the Bronx. The Rangers take on the Yankees this weekend. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, Ezequiel Duran is probably the biggest X factor for the Rangers' success this year. He was a guy who made the Major League roster out of camp, but did not win the opening day, everyday left field spot like I really anticipated him doing. He had a really good spring. He really impressed Bruce Bochy with his versatility, and that might be his biggest asset, besides him just hitting the absolute snot out of the baseball every single time he puts it into play. This year, he has been everywhere for the Rangers. He's played second base, he's played left field, he's played shortstop, he's played third base, first base, right field. He's played basically everywhere outside of catcher and center field, and I think he can still play center field. Last year, he was basically just an everyday third baseman until Josh Young came up, and while I still think that he's not going to displace Josh Young, and that is something that I've felt for a while, but because I really love Josh Young, but I really love Ezequiel Duran as an everyday player. I think he should be playing every single day. I mean, basically without fail, against righties, against lefties. I don't care. It doesn't matter where they put him. And that's one of the things that Bruce Bochy loves about this guy. He has played so many different positions in his career, and he's played a lot of left field, and he really hasn't played that much outfield in the minors. I mean, in the minors, he played 7 games of left field. He played 10 games in center field, and I think that all came last year after he got sent down and was playing center field in Round Rock. For his minor league career, he played 79 games at shortstop and 180 games at second base. Just 13 games in the minor leagues at third base before he was pretty much an everyday player at third base in the majors last year. This guy is just able to jump into basically any situation the Rangers need him to. He played first base for a game and did not look out of sorts there. He's hit in the 2-hole when Corey Seager was out playing shortstop. He has hit in the 8-hole. He has hit 7th. I think 7th is probably where I'd keep him for right now, just behind Jonah Heim. Maybe even think about maybe moving him up ahead of Jonah Heim. I don't know. That would be too many righties in a row, I think, if Josh Young is there. So that maybe that's why they'll keep him at the 7-hole. But long term, I think that Ezequiel Duran might be the heir apparent to Corey Seager whenever Corey Seager does get moved off of shortstop. There's quite a few pretty good, well, there's a couple of really good shortstop prospects in the Rangers system. Luisangel Acuna is at AA right now. And I think that if it's not Ezequiel Duran, that's the next Rangers everyday shortstop when Corey Seager does eventually move off of that position, because I don't think Seager's playing shortstop for all 10 years of that contract. I just don't think that's going to happen. A 38-year-old Corey Seager is probably not your everyday shortstop. If he is, then he has found some kind of fountain of youth like Adrian Beltre, and he is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. But I don't anticipate the fountain of youth thing particularly happening for Corey Seager. So, I mean, Luisangel Acuna is the next option. Then there's Sebastian Walcott, who was the Rangers' top international signee, or most expensive, I should say, international signee from the class of 2022. I believe it is. He's just now getting into the Dominican Summer League, just getting his first taste of organized baseball. So, actually, it might have been this year. Might have been 2023. That they signed Sebastian Walcott, I think. So he's probably not going to be ready until, like, I don't know, 2027 feels like the most aggressive time for him to get to the big leagues. And I think Corey Seager is probably at shortstop until 2026. Maybe at that point, that's when Ezequiel Duran moves over to be your everyday shortstop. But for this year, he's going to stay the left field. He should be the primary left fielder. Should be playing way more often than Robbie Grossman. I honestly trust his defense more than Robbie Grossman's in left field, even though Ezequiel Duran has only played so many games in the outfield at all levels. Let's see. He has played 11 games in center field at all levels and 26 games at left field in all levels of baseball, including the minor leagues, major leagues, and any Dominican leagues or whatever summer Dominican winter leagues where he played in this past offseason. So I think for now it's going to be left field / DH, and then maybe even at the end of this year he moves towards more of a super duper utility guy of giving guys days off, giving guys half days off, because maybe Evan Carter's up in the big leagues by the end of this year. I don't know. Evan Carter's going to have to do some really impressive stuff. He's going to have to do what he was doing in April. He's going to have to do that for, this next month in AA, then get a promotion to AAA and do similar types of things. Maybe that will earn him a spot on the roster. I think that maybe Evan Carter has a spot on a playoff roster of just having a guy there who has a lot of value, who can steal bases, who can play great defense, who I think could probably hit major league pitching at a decent clip. Probably not better than any of the everyday regulars that the Rangers are trotting out there right now. But as soon as next year, Ezequiel Duran is probably going to be your everyday DH. I mean, and then also a super utility type of guy. Not that he's not good defensively, but he doesn't have the reps in the outfield. I think that eventually he could be a pretty good defensive left fielder. He's got a big arm. He's really fast. He makes decent reads. And, for a guy who hasn't played out there that much, and an outfield right now of Ezequiel Duran in left, Leody Taveras in center, and Adolis Garcia in right is really incredibly good. But next year, it's probably going to be Evan Carter in left and Leody Taveras in center and Adolis Garcia in right. And that is just even better. That is probably the best defensive outfield in all of baseball. But Ezequiel Duran's bat is so important that you've got to keep him in the lineup. And, you're going to lose your consistent everyday DH in Mitch Garver for next year. He is going to be a free agent. I don't know that the Rangers are going to bring him back. I mean, maybe they think about it, but I'm not entirely sure. It kind of depends on how healthy he is down the stretch, how much he is catching down the stretch. It will determine how the Rangers feel about him, and maybe someone else wants to go crazy. Maybe the Padres go crazy because they have needed a catcher for so long, and maybe they get desperate and trust that Mitch Garver is going to be healthy for them, and they go spend a bunch of money on him to kind of help that team contend. But Ezequiel Duran, it doesn't really matter where he's playing every single day as long as he's playing every single day. And one of the things that I think that is most impressive about and why Bruce Bochy is praising his versatility so much is because baseball players are creatures of habit. They're guys who like to know where they're going to hit in the lineup every day, where they're going to play defensively every day, and just go to the ballpark and know what it's going to be like every day. And Ezequiel Duran is playing so many different positions, hitting different spots in the lineup, usually just kind of 7th or 8th at this point. Sometimes he'll hit higher up to give random guys days off. But for the most part, Ezequiel Duran is kind of in this, flux of not really knowing exactly where he is going to be. And it doesn't affect him. It seems like every day he shows up and he kicks butt. It doesn't matter where you put him. Is he going to be in left field? Is he going to be in right field? Is he going to be DHing? He's going to play first base, shortstop, second. It does not freaking matter because he just shows up. This year he's hitting .310 with an on base of .355 and slugging .524, 9 home runs, 11 doubles, 1 triple. He finally has more stolen bases than caught stealing with that steal on the Wednesday game. 4 steals to just 3 caught stealing. And the walks are trending upward. Once he gets that walk rate up to, I don't know, maybe the 10th percentile in baseball. Right now he's in the 6th percentile. Same with his chase rate, but he's not striking out in the bottom 10% of baseball. Strikeout rate is in the 35th percentile. So he's got to swing and miss, and that will lead to some slumps eventually. And I think that is why he is not played literally every single day. But he is a fast player. He is a player with some pop. He's in the top 10 percentile of sprint speed in all of Major League Baseball, and outs above average. He's in the top 18% of Major League Baseball, and he plays a bazillion different positions. He played shortstop much better than I thought he would. I mean, I wasn't quite sold on him as an everyday shortstop, but seeing what he did when Corey Seager went down and he was basically the everyday shortstop, I think he can do it. I think he can absolutely be your everyday shortstop if that's the route the Rangers want to go. They have an absolute gem in him, and getting some value out of Josh Smith and maybe some big league value out of Clint Otto whenever he comes back. He is still rehabbing. We'll talk a little bit more about his rehab appearances on tomorrow's show. But Ezequiel Duran is a huge get for the Rangers. He's only 24 years old. He's going to be with the Rangers for many more seasons, and his versatility is something that the Rangers do cherish, and I think Rangers fans should cherish as well. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day if you're not already. Like I said, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock, follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and hit that subscribe button. We are hoping to get 2,500 subscribers by the All-Star break. We are a little under 100 away, so if you are watching on YouTube and you are not subscribed, click that little subscribe button, give me that little hit of dopamine, and I really, really appreciate you for it. Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy first place Texas Rangers baseball.